Thank you all. Thank you, David Trone, Mr. Congressman, for the invitation to be here with so many of your friends, to be here with you and June. They are a team in representing you in Washington, D.C. Thank you, June, for your service to our district here, to the state of Maryland, and to our country. June is just a very major part of all of this. And I will talk more about David Trone in just a moment. First, I want to acknowledge the prayerful, devout invocation by my sister, Pastor Hargrove from Baltimore. Where'd she go? There she is. I will bring back that message to my colleagues in the Congress and bring your blessing to all of us for what we have going ahead and the blessings for our great country. We always must be praying that God blesses America. Thank you for leading us in prayer today. And then the Speaker of the House of the state of Maryland. Oh my gosh, Speaker Jones. Maryland really produces women speakers, it appears. We're so proud of her. We're so proud of her, and what an honor to have her with all of us today. Again, people said when I was a little girl growing up, they would say, Maryland is America in miniature. Everything that exists in our country exists in our great state of Maryland. And now we have a woman speaker in Maryland, a woman speaker in the Congress of the United States. And it is a reflection of the beautiful diversity of this wonderful state. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for being with us today and introducing David Trone. Well, not introducing him, but presenting him to his many friends here. It's an honor to be with you always. Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I'm here to say thank you to all of you. Thank you so much for sending David Trone to the Congress of the United States. He is, as was mentioned by the Speaker, that he brings, and Madam Pastor saying, a little more senior, but very junior in the Congress, senior in his experience. Not that senior to me, but nonetheless. He is really quite remarkable because what he does is values-based. What he does is informed by strong intellect and experience. What he brings is respect for other people's point of view, confidence in what he stands for and what he knows about, humble enough to listen to others and to find a solution, which is what our responsibility is, to get results for the American people. Some of us were together right before the election, a little more than a year ago. On that day, we all were tearful because we had just learned that morning about the Tree of Life tragedy. That had been a synagogue of the Trone family when they lived in Pittsburgh for a while. Very soulfully, prayerfully, determinedly, David addressed it that day. But as soon as he came to Congress, it became a priority for him to end gun violence in our country and be an important part of our Gun Violence Prevention Act, common sense background check legislation. On that day before the election, he talked about fairness in the workforce, fairness in our economy. And right from the start, as a member of the Education and Labor Committee, as he mentioned, he sponsored legislation for equal pay for equal work. That means we call it paycheck fairness, equal pay for equal work, and the $15 an hour increase in the minimum wage. By the way, over 30 million people get a raise from that. Over 20 million of them are women, David went through a list of items on the agenda giving me credit, but I take the credit on behalf of our House Democratic Caucus, and in some cases on some bipartisanship to pass those pieces of legislation and send them to the United States Senate. But David was there from the start on what we talked about, the Equality Act to end discrimination against the LGBTQ community, champion on that issue. Again, as I say, equal pay for equal work, fairness in our economy, gun safety, climate action now. He ran through a list of all of those. And just this week, he was helped us with what we were doing. We were all on the steps of the Supreme Court. Many of us were over there, listening to the dreamers speak outside, while in the court, the oral arguments were being presented to preserve DACA for our dreamers. And then we marched over to the Senate with our bill. So we were fighting in the courts to protect our dreamers, TPS, other promises made. We were working in the Congress and then taking it back over to over 161 days it's been in the Senate, but taking it over again as a reminder and an impetus for them to do something. And we are fighting in the court of public opinion. Because this is about America. We say, God bless America. God has blessed America with David and June Trone's service to our country in the nonprofit world, in the private sector, and now in the public sector. And when we talk about God blessing America and all of the opportunities we have to bless America in our public service, there are other things were mentioned, the Elijah Cummings, H.R. 3, the Elijah Cummings, lower health care costs now legislation. When I was here that day before the election a year ago, I wasn't here in Gaithersburg High School. Isn't it great to be here at Gaithersburg High School? And so the mayor and members of the city council, so many officials from this area and beyond within the district. Thank you, members of the official family of Maryland, for being here to honor David. But when we talked that day, we talked about for the people, we would lower health care costs by lowering the cost of prescription drugs and guaranteeing the pre-existing condition benefit. Lower health care costs, bigger paychecks by building the infrastructure of America in a green, resilient way for the future. Lower health care, bigger paychecks, cleaner government by reducing the role of dark special interest money in politics and enhancing the voice of every voter. So we have been legislating. Sadly, we have also had to be investigating and litigating. And when I said, back to God blessing America, how do we define America? America is our Constitution, this beautiful document, which this beauty and strength of it is the separation of powers, three co-equal branches of government, separation of power as a check and balance on each other. The current resident of the White House says, Article 2 says he can do whatever he wants. It doesn't. That would be a monarchy. We're not a monarchy. We are a republic. On the day, September 17th, 1787, that our beautiful Constitution was adopted, when Benjamin Franklin came out onto the steps of Independence Hall, he was asked, what do we have, Dr. Franklin, a monarchy or a republic? He said, a republic, if we can keep it. And we have a responsibility to keep it. It was what our founders, the vision of our founders, to declare independence, to win a war of independence, to write this document that would not be a monarchy. That's what they fought, but a republic. And in that Constitution, that exquisite formula, but also all of our rights in the Bill of Rights and so much more. What is America? It is that Constitution with all of our rights contained therein. And some of us believe that the current occupant of the White House has violated the Constitution by his actions, violated his oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution. What is America? America is our people. Our people. But unless you have been born and blessed to be born a Native American, which is a blessing to you, all who love you, and a blessing to our country, we are a nation of immigrants. A nation of immigrants. Immigrants then and immigrants now. And what does this president do but demean newcomers to our country? I say to him, just listen to Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, and I mentioned this last year when we were together. Ronald Reagan said this is the last speech I will make as President of the United States, and I want to communicate a message to a country I love. In essence, he said, and I suggest you Google it because it's a beautiful speech. Here I go quoting Republican presidents. But this has not been a partisan issue. He said, he talks about the Statue of Liberty and the beacon of hope that it is to the world. And then he goes on to say, the vital force of America's preeminence in the world is every new generation of immigrants who comes to our country. And when America fails to acknowledge that, we will fail to be preeminent in the world. We cannot close the door, he said, to that vitality of our future. Ronald Reagan. So, Ronald Reagan, President George Herbert Walker Bush, President Clinton, President George W. Bush, President Obama, of course, all continue that. Presidents before too, but I'm just speaking from Ronald Reagan on until this president. Dishonor your oath of office, demean who we are as a people, America as a people. What is America? This beautiful, beautiful continent from sea to shining sea and beyond. God's gift to us. We have to be good stewards of it. And what does the president do? Almost every day, certainly 2 times a week, degrades the environment, is in denial about climate change, and says, I will not make any decision on the environment based on science. Dishonor, demean, degrade. And what is America? Our values. You know what our values are, and so does David Trone as he represents you in Congress. Our values are who we are in terms of liberty and justice for all. The beautiful idea of America, that the future will be better than the past. The American dream is a reality in our country, and we must have fairness, whether it's in our economy, our judicial system, in our environment, all across the board. David is a champion on the Education and Workforce Committee in that regard. He's a champion on the Foreign Affairs Committee as he promotes our values throughout the world. He's a champion on the Joint Economic Committee as he fights for fairness in our economy. So again, we have a president who undervalues the values of America. We have a champion in Congress who's been a champion to protect and defend our Constitution, to respect the beautiful diversity of America, to protect God's gift to us, our beautiful environment, and to promote our values. So when I say thank you for sending David Trone, I'm saying thank you for sending him to represent you. A blessing to this district, a blessing to the Congress, a blessing to the country. Thank you for sending David Trone to the Congress. I'm gonna... You can take as long as you want to applaud David Trone. Give him away. I just want to... Did you want me to let him go longer, David? I do want to say this, though. When we talk about our founders, a republic, if we can keep it, also think before that, in the darkest days of the Revolution, This is one that Jamie Raskin always likes to say. The darkest days of the revolution, Thomas Paine said, "The times have found us. Times have found us. Declare, win, write, have a vision of that our country." We believe that the times have found us now. Each and every one of you in this room who would give up a Sunday afternoon to come to such a meeting, to support the values of our country, personified in the leadership of David Trone. Times have found us, not to place ourselves in the category of greatness of our founders, but to understand the urgency of the time that we are in, responsible to protect the vision that our founders had, a republic if we can keep it. And also to do so in a way that adheres to other clarion calls of our founders. E pluribus unum, from many one. They couldn't possibly imagine how many we would be or how different we would be from each other. But they knew we always had to strive for oneness, that we always had to remember that we have a responsibility to find common ground. David mentions empathy all the time, to respect other views, to find common ground for results for the American people. Where we can't, stand our ground. That was Thomas Jefferson saying, stand our ground until we get the best possible result. So we have an important task ahead of us. Not any one of us in the Congress, and I'm certain, Madam Speaker, you would agree in the legislature in Maryland, not any one of us comes to office in the Congress of the United States to impeach a president. That's not what we're about. We come here to do good things for our country, to honor the vision of our founders, to honor the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, to protect our freedom, to honor the aspirations of our children, because after all, it's all about the children. It's all about the children and their future. So we don't come here to impeach, but we do take an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that is what we must do. And that is what we must do in a way that hopefully will be healing for our country, repairing for our country. And to say for the children that no future president, no matter she or he may be, can say the second Article 2 says I can do whatever I want, but that he or she will honor their oath of office. I say it's about the children. When people ask me what are the three most important issues facing the Congress, I always say the same thing. Our children, our children, our children. Their health, their education, the economic security of their families, a clean, safe place for them to grow and thrive, a world at peace in which they can reach their fulfillment. And that is what it's all about for us. And that's what David Trone and his committee assignments, and beyond that, his leadership in the Congress is there. He is there for the children. Just for a moment, if I may talk a little politics. Since we were gathered before the election, before David's election last year, with the help of so many of you in this room, both in this district and helping other places across the Potomac and all around, in the most gerrymandered, voter-suppressed political arena you could imagine, the House Democrats net gained 40 seats to gain the majority. 40 seats. Giving us the majority, thank God we have the majority, can you just imagine? And the leverage that goes with it. Well, the leverage goes to America's working families. And we have this beautifully diverse caucus. 60% of our caucus are women, people of color, LGBTQ. 60% of our caucus. It's remarkable. And in this year, And this, not this year, but this Congress, when we will observe the 100th anniversary of women having the right to vote. Imagine what it is to be a woman speaker in that Congress. We have, for the first time, over 100 women members in the House of Representatives. Last year, for this Congress, we elected 106 women, 91 of them Democrats. Because we made a decision. Because we made a decision to support diversity. It doesn't mean women are better than men at the table. It means we just want the mix of opinion. People of color, LGBTQ, and the rest, and we're very, very proud of that. Now, we have another election less than a year away. Oh my gosh. 3 years down, 1 to go. Oh my. And as we go forward in this election, we want to respect the beautiful diversity, enhance it. And I say to my colleagues, as we have some different exuberances in our caucus, and I get credit sometimes for bringing people together, I don't unify our caucus. Our values unify our caucus. And our central value is the well-being of America's working families. So any friends from unions in the hall, thank you all for what, thank you. Our middle class is the backbone of our democracy, and our middle class has a union label on it. So, so I say to my caucus, my beautifully diverse caucus, in every way, gender, generation, geography, ethnicity, gender identity, every possible point of view, beautiful diversity of it all. Our diversity is our strength. Our unity is our power. And so as we go into this election, we must be united for the children. For the children. Sometimes I say to some of the women candidates, when you get into this arena, this is a difficult place. This is not for the faint of heart. You have to be ready to take a punch. But you also have to be ready to throw a punch. For the children. For the children. So are we all ready to send David Trone back with a great big victory? To keep the Maryland delegation as strong as it is, coming back into the Congress of the United States, re-electing Chris Van Hollen to the Senate of the United States, and electing a Democratic president of the United States. Thank you all very much.